Hello creative friends, this is Joy coming to you with a problem that I'm having. I made this junk journal with all of the junk that I've been hoarding for a while, and thought, it would be kind of cool to bind it all into a journal that I could then, use for art journaling or what have you. And as you can see, it's like probably the biggest junk journal ever made. But the issue that I'm having with it is working in it. It doesn't really lay flat, and it's not really easy to work in unless, of course, I was working in the middle. But even still, the pages, trying to get them to flatten out so I can get, really in there to work, it's too much and it's too big. So I had the idea that I think I'm just going to cut this whole thing apart and make it into 5 smaller junk journals instead of having this big humongous journal. And I think it would make it easier to work and in each one of these. And plus, I had an idea that there are so many pages to each one of these signatures that I kind of would like to do each one as a separate theme. Like I'd like to do one in kind of like a steampunk, and another one in kind of like a medieval times, and then another one in a different theme and a different theme, and so I think that would be fun to do each one in a different theme. But again, having them all in one book is it's too much. So I'm going to cut these apart, and I think I could probably use, I tried to use the outside of each signature be the biggest piece or close to the biggest piece. I could probably make that the cover and then trim off or make a new cover to go around the whole thing later on when I'm done. But again, this is not really very user-friendly, as we say, and so I am going to cut it apart and make it into 5 smaller journals and then go from there. So I will fast forward through the process of what I'm going to be doing with this journal and showing you how I'm going to go about making it into 5 smaller journals. Thank you for watching. So what I decided to do here is to decide on where I was going to cut this apart, and I was just going to start cutting, and I thought, well, that's probably not a wise idea. It's probably better to try to mark exactly in between the 2 bindings, draw a line, and that would at least make it easier than just trying to eyeball it, which is going to be a lot more difficult. And it was a little bit challenging to get these lines on the binding like this, because the journal again was not cooperating, but I did manage to figure that out. And then to cut it apart, that was another challenge. So it just made it easier. I have this blade, and so I just stood it up and then cut along the line that I had drawn to cut each one of them apart to make them into individual journals. And I was thinking of the front and the back one, that I would leave, the cardboard attached and then somehow tape, another piece of cardboard on the other side for the cover. But you'll see here that I just decide that I'm going to cut that off as well. I decided, nah, I don't want that on there. So I cut that off as well on both ends. And in looking at these, I thought, well, the cardboard, I don't want to cut it off of the binding, because then the string will be really loose. So I have to leave it on there, but I decided to trim it up as much as I could get it trimmed up, and was trying to figure out, okay, how am I going to do the cover. So I trimmed down the cardboard as much as I could, and I decided to cover the whole outside of it to make the cover. So you'll see that here in a minute. Right now I'm just going through trying to trim off as much of the cardboard as I could for each of these. And actually, this, come to find out, this probably isn't a bad way to make a junk journal. Using some cardboard to sew it to, and then covering the whole thing for a cover, because I really like the way these turned out in the end. They turned out kind of cool. And you can't see any of the binding. You know, the binding's covered up with the cover that I end up putting on these. So yeah, when I started this, I'm like, do I just cut them apart and then work in them and figure out a cover later, or paint the pages that are on there now as the cover? But I didn't really like the cardboard showing, so I did end up covering the whole thing. And here I'm going through just trimming down the pages that are sticking out past the cover or the outer pages. So here I've got this big book of watercolor paper that I got from Blick, that I was going to use the cover itself, but then I'm like, yeah, I'll just use the page, because, you know, it's pretty thick watercolor paper. It is, let me see what it is. It's 80-pound watercolor paper, and it's an 18 by 24 pad, so it was plenty big enough. So I was able to use that to cover each one of these journals, the outside of each one of these journals, with the paper to give them all a nice cover. So here again, trying to trim all the pages that are sticking out, and I tried to trim them just a little bit shorter than the outside page, just so that they, you know, were just a tad, maybe an eighth of an inch shorter. And so here I'm trying to measure out or figure out, I guess, how I'm going to cover this with and how big of a piece I need. Now, this first one, I laid it out, as you can see, and I traced around it and made the cover to fit it exactly. But then I realized with putting this on, this first one on, that I really did need something a little bit bigger. So I ended up having to add to, or, you know, when I did the other ones, I did add a little, like a ½ inch extra, just because of the bends and stuff. So here I'm using Aleene's glue to try to glue these on, and I'm using a credit card to spread the glue around and glue the one side on. So I got it all lined up and right where it needed to be, and pressed it down, and then was creasing it. But you can see here in a minute that it came up just a tad short, but I managed to get it once I got it on there and it was wet. The paper was wet. I did get it to, I guess you could say, stretch a little bit, enough to where it's not that noticeable. And plus I'm like, well, I'm gonna do something with these covers, you know, paint them or whatever, and I don't know if you're gonna really be able to see it that much. So, you know, here I did get it to on there, but, you know, when I would try to close it, it would pull and shorten the page, so you could see it there. But yeah, I just kept working with it till I could get it to at least be as close as possible. And then on the other ones, I kind of learned from the first one, well, you need to add a little bit so that, you know, when you close the book, you've got some room there. So it still ended up being a little short, but, you know, like I said, I wasn't too concerned about it, because my intent was to cover, you know, paint these covers and cover them up anyway. So I did that to all the books, you know, but with adding a little bit more extra room. And then I painted, I'm painting the book with gesso, black gesso. So I ended up painting 2 of these outer covers with black gesso, 2 of them with white gesso, and then, you know, acrylic paint. And then one of them I decided that I'm going to cover it with some scrapbook paper. So you'll see that. I will go through and kind of show that. Try to fast forward and skip through, most of this. So I did one side and then the other. And the binding, of course. And I'm just using a foam brush to put the black gesso on here. And I really like the look of the black gesso, so I actually did not, after I put the black gesso on, I didn't cover up these pages. I just left them with the black gesso and then decorated them, the covers, with the black gesso as my base paint. And I'm trying to get around the edges, make sure that all the edges are covered, because the edges I could see some of the white or whatever. And then here I'm using white gesso to cover this particular book. And I was going to gesso all of them and then paint them all or do something like that, but I decided I didn't want them all the same, because again, my idea was to do each one in a different kind of theme. So I thought, well, I wanted to add some color, because like I said, I like the look of the black gesso, and I painted 2 of them in that. But I didn't want them all to be black, so I did gesso a couple of them with white so that I could then come back and color them with some kind of a colored acrylic paint. So here, me being lazy and didn't want to wait for the white gesso to dry, I'm just going with it and deciding to do the whole thing. So I ended up doing the whole outside of it with the white gesso, and then I kind of hung it over, a chair, the back of a chair to dry, because I was not wanting to have to wait. The black gesso actually dried fairly quickly. The white gesso, for whatever reason, takes a little bit more time. So here, once I got all of them covered, I decided to go back in and do the inside cover as well. So I also wanted to go ahead and cover and decorate the inside cover of these, journals as well. So here you see me doing the one side, and then me being lazy, not wanting to wait for it to dry. I think I ended up going ahead and doing the other side and somehow figuring out how to, no, maybe not. Here, I think I did wait for it to dry, and then, because like I said, the black dries a lot faster. It doesn't really take any time at all. So here I'm doing the back cover. And then I will let that dry. So this particular journal is the one I decided I wanted to cover with some scrapbook paper. Well, I should have been paying attention, because I ended up putting the cover on and then realizing that I had it up. Now, I don't know if at this point it's upside down, but by the time I was done with it, it was it was upside down, and I'm like, oh well, I guess I will, plan on covering the pages anyway that are in this journal. So yeah, so this is what I wanted on the front, so I put it on, and then I trimmed it. Trimmed all the way around the edges of it, or the excess, I trimmed off, as you see here. And then I do the back side the same way. I'm just using a glue stick. It's a Elmer's glue, the disappearing purple school glue. I actually, though, prefer, and that's actually something I'm just trying to get used up, because I actually found that Elmer's has an extreme school glue that I like better, and I got a couple of those, and those do work better. But for this, purpose, I was like, well, it'll be fine. So I got this other sheet of scrapbook paper I wanted on the back side, and I'm trying to get it squared up with the corner there, because that's where I wanted that clock in that bottom corner, and then trimming off the excess of that. So then, of course, at this point I had the binding to contend with, and so I got another small scrap of paper that I put on the binding, but I also had the inside, so I got this other paper, and all of these papers were from the same paper pack, and here's where I realized, shoot, I got it upside down. I was like, oh well, whatever. I'm going to cover the pages anyway, but there, are some images in there that I might have liked to have just left and not covered over, but it looks like I'm probably just going to cover everything over. So I decided this was a nice print to go on the inside, and so I put that on the inside, glued it on, and trying to get the glue off my non-stick mat, and then trim that up. My apologies for being off camera there, but the way my desk is set up now, I have a lot more room. Like, there's probably about, from the bottom of my mat to the edge of the desk where I'm sitting, it's probably about a good 5 or 6 inches. So I try to keep it on. I know if I keep it on the mat that it's within camera shot, but sometimes when I'm so into trying to do stuff, I'll pull it towards me to, a little bit, and then I end up out of camera shot. So, but I try to be cognizant when I'm doing things to make sure I stay within camera shot. But yeah, I guess I left this in because the glue, when it gets on the mat and you try to wipe it off, it doesn't just come right up. And so I sprayed some water on it, and that seemed to help, me wipe it up a lot easier. Whereas when I was just wiping it with the paper towel, it just seemed like it was smearing around everywhere. So then I decided to take a strip of that same pattern paper and put it on the binding. But I made it a real thin strip because I didn't want it to cover, the edges too much of the front or the back. I just wanted it to cover, just a little bit, and then the binding itself. Again, my apologies for going off camera, trying to trim. So now that I've got it covered, the edges just look raw to me, like, they needed something more. So I grabbed some Tim Holtz tissue tape, and then decided that would make a nice addition to the edge, to the raw edge, to kind of give it more of a finished look. So that's what I'm doing here, and plus to, kind of hold everything on there, because some of the edges weren't, maybe sticking or glued down as well as they could have been. But this resolved the whole issue with everything, and gave it, like I said, a finished look. So I really like the way that this journal turned out. It turned out really cute. And this is the one I'm going to use as a steampunk journal. I think this kind of has that steampunky kind of feel to it. So I think this would make a great steampunk journal, and it's upside down, so that kind of goes with the whole kind of theme, I guess, And yeah, there I'm like, yeah, should I? Yeah, I think I'm going to. I think I do end up covering that, because there was, again, that little piece kept wanting to pop up, and so I'm like, well, I'll just tape that sucker down and it'll stay. So I end up, cutting it a little bit longer so I could bend it over the edge a little bit. There you go. So that's one journal finished. So this journal, one of the black ones, I decided I wanted to use as my medieval slash Renaissance, and I found some pictures, and come up with a little collage here that I wanted to do on the cover of this journal. So here I'm using, what am I using? Golden gel medium is what I'm using here. And when I opened it, it seemed like it was separated a little bit. It had some liquid on top. So I kind of stirred it real quick, so that stir in whatever that was, the clear liquid that was on top of it. And I'm using this to, as you can see, cover the backs and also cover the tops of these images that I decided to put on this cover. And this actually works pretty good. I mean, I did like the way this worked. I guess I've used it before, but it must have been a while. And here lately I've been using Collage Podge for my journal pages, and I'm out. So, and I couldn't find any more. But this works pretty good, so I will be using this because I've got several bottles of it that came in kits that I had ordered at one time. And so, yeah. And I decided, since, I was putting these images down with the Collage Podge, that I would just cover the rest of the journal so that it didn't have, a weird kind of finish on part of it and not other parts. So here's the other black journal that I decided to put down an image and a couple of titles that I found onto that I thought would be kind of cool. So this one, haven't decided what I'm going to do with this one yet. I really like the way this one turned out. I don't know. I think I'm probably going to do just different things in this one. I was thinking of doing using this one as like an animal, with images and things of animals, but there's another one that I also, I might use this one as for animals, and there's another one I put a giraffe picture on as well that I was thinking about using for animals. So one of them I'll use for animals, and the other one I'll just use for random stuff. But this one says believe and continue your legacy, I guess. And again, I cover the whole front cover of it with the Collage Podge so that it didn't, have part of it where it had, of the black where it had like the Collage Podge on, and other parts where it didn't. I wanted it to all have the same kind of texture and finish. So here I decided this is one of the journals that I did white gesso on. I decided to pull out my Dylusions paints to paint the journal cover with, and I just wanted to do kind of a mottled, colors. So here I've got yellow and orange, and what is the other color? Purple. But I got into a little bit of trouble with this one because I was getting, with the purple and the yellow, as you can see, it was turning into like kind of a muddy mess. But I did end up, and plus I kind of messed up because I covered the one side completely, and the other side I left kind of the center not painted because I was going to put the image, but then I realized that the side that I left no paint on in the middle was actually the front, was actually the back, not the front. So I remedied that eventually because somehow this was like upside down or whatever. So I added the orange, and then with the orange and the purple and the yellow, it was all kind of turning brown. But I I got it figured out. So here is a green one that I kind of just used like yellow and green and turquoise on, and those seem to blend okay. And I got this image that I wanted to put on the front of it, so I'm gluing it down. And it's like a bicycle with it leaning against a fence with some flowers in the basket. And it had like some kind of like little weird thing on the corner, so I found some flowers to put on that. And then this title, Every Day is a Gift, because the title didn't completely cover what I was wanting to cover there. And yeah, I seem to always want to mix colors that make mud, but you know, I always manage to make them work one way or the other. I'm a bit of a rebel when it comes to that because I do not mind the color wheel at all. I just do whatever I, feel like doing and, hope for the best, and usually I can get it to work. So here's the journal. After it dried, I did go back over it. It's better if you let like it dry and one color dry, and then you go back over with a different color instead of trying to do it all at once. But eventually I did. But I wanted the colors to kind of blend in with each other, but so that they weren't just kind of like color on top of color. So I did end up, after working it with it, getting it to cooperate, as you can see here. So here I've got this picture of some giraffes that I thought would go on this particular journal. So I'm covering it up and to put it on this journal cover. And this does have something already on the picture. It says, years ago, their secrets are only now being unraveled by modern science. So I don't know, it had something else up on it, but when I cut it out, it just had that little piece left of the writing, and I'm like, I kind of like it. And you got these little 3 giraffes standing there looking at you, and it's like, that's kind of cool. So yeah, I decided just to go with that. I might add, I don't know, more to this, but I might not, because I might go back through my stash and try to find another quote or title or something to add to this page. But for now, that's what it looks like. With you'll see here, I think I show that I do decide to put some washi tape around the edges of this one as well. I was going to do it on all of them, but I didn't. I'm like, well, they don't all need to be the same, but this one I thought could use it, a little bit more to it. So I believe I do show that. And again, I cover the whole front cover with the matte medium, because I wanted it to all have the whole front cover to have the same, finish to it. And here is where I decide to use this washi tape that has purple and orange in it to kind of match the cover. And go all the way around it. To trim out the cover of this particular journal. But yeah, once I figure this out and get this on there, this is pretty much the 5 journals that I've created. I believe that's all 5 of them. Yep. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Yep. And I hope you liked the video. I really enjoyed making these little journals, and I think I'm going to have a lot of fun, creating in them and filling them up. So thank you for stopping by and watching the video. If you like the videos I put out, you can You could subscribe to my channel to see more videos that I put out, or you can leave me a comment. I would love to hear from you. I really enjoy, doing art journaling and sharing what I do with others, and hope, that it inspires other people to try art journaling as well, because it is a lot of fun, and it certainly is a great way to have a creative outlet, for your art. And it's for, anyone. So here's the 5 journals. 1, 2, 3, upside down, 4, and 5. Thank you guys for watching. Talk to you later. Bye-bye.